Have you ever wondered what would happen if you were brave? I mean, really brave. Brave enough to back yourself in a vision of what life could look like if only you could be brave enough to cope with the uncertainty, the doubt, the instability that comes with stepping towards a dream, yes, but stepping towards the unknown. That is just one of the things we're talking about with my guest this week, Taylor Hanson. Yeah, from Hanson. Taylor Hanson is my podcast guest this week. So let me tell you about my guest today. Taylor Hanson is a singer and a songwriter and a dad from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a career spanning over 30 years. Hanson, they shot to fame in 1997 when the pop masterpiece MMMbop was released. But you know what? Now, these days, 30 years later, they're selling more tickets to their live shows than they ever were during that incredible time. And it's no secret. It's no secret at all. I absolutely love this band. And I hope that this conversation might be your chance to discover, I guess, some of their music, which for me, over the years, has always felt like the sun coming out on a cloudy day. Hanson have a brand new album on the way out. May 20th is when it comes out. The first single is called Write You a Song, and it's already making waves. Everything you need to know is at their website, which has been the same website for nearly 30 years, hanson.net. This is a glorious conversation, and it's one that I'm immensely proud of because, look, I'm a fan of their music, but you don't have to listen too hard. There is something in Hanson's lyrics that betray a deeper wisdom beneath. And I think today you're going to hear not only that is Taylor Hanson a superb musician and a superior songwriter, but he's a man who thinks quite deeply about the world and his place in the world. I'm super grateful to have connected with Taylor in this way. I certainly hope that you feel that connection when you listen, because it's a nice thing. This is a chat that's about music, about longevity, about fatherhood, about family, and a little bit about rowing. Big thanks to Isaac Hanson, who was actually on hand on the night. So it was morning when I did it here. And Isaac Hanson was on hand to help with some finicky microphone issues with the streaming platform that we use to get high quality audio 15,000 kilometers away. But we made it. So thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed this absolutely wonderful conversation with Taylor Hanson. There's so much to talk to you about today, Taylor. Goodness me. I would like to talk to you, obviously, about this new record, which is glorious and makes me want to, in the words of Freddie Mercury, it makes me want to take a long ride on my motorbike and hit some highways. I would like to talk to you about rowing.
Oh, yes.
But I think most importantly, what I need your help on today, Taylor, is that you have 7 children.
Yes,
we have two. Our eldest's the same age, just turned 18. But This morning, Wolf, who's nearly 3, was like, I'm not eating this porridge. I'm standing on my chair. And while I stand up here with no straps, 3 feet off the ground, I'm going to take my pants off and I'm going to throw them at you and there's nothing you can do about it. In the meantime, I'm like, I've got to get downstairs because I've got to talk to you. My wife's got to get out the door. The eldest has got to get to the gym. What do you do in that situation, man? Help me out here.
You grin and bear it. You try and, I like to say they were made cute so you don't kill them. So they there was some beautiful design involved there. You don't eat your young. I don't think there's a perfect answer there. I think it's that like calm in the storm, mentality. You learn to okay, I'm going to zen this thing. like, I'm going to take the absolute insanity and I'm going to treat it like when suddenly there's a fire or a tornado and get like go in instead of panic and like tip the boat, so to speak. Works with rowing too. You just got to go, okay, this is going to pass. I'm not going to die and I'm not going to kill anyone because they're my offspring. Murder is bad.
Yeah. But in the moment when
how do you manage it?
The wonderful thing about it, Taylor, is that on top of all this is the, 3:45 this morning, dad.
Oh yeah.
And I'm in there and he's got both hands in his face trying to pull his lower jaw out of his gums because his teeth are coming, and he's done a poo that's making my eyes, it's real acidic teething poo. Oh man, it's still night. We can't get up and play around. It's 4 a.m. here. Give him, some analgesic, something to kind of calm the pain down, and give him a bit of a cuddle and try to put him back to bed. So there's sleep deprivation on top of that, mate.
I know. It's amazing the human race survives. Really. It's really incredible.
What advice can you? 7 is no joke. How do you and your wife maintain a connection when there is so much important connection to be maintained between you and all the kids, between the two of you?
Well, that's the eternal question. It's you learn to see the long, play the long game. You try and develop, you have to be proactive to develop the patterns that keep you sane. And as those things get smaller, those windows get smaller and smaller, right? You have less of this keeps me sane. I know, like, I get my exercise in early in the morning, or I get my coffee, just as long as I get my coffee in this way, it just sets the day the right direction. Or in the other direction, did I at least say that one consistent good thing to affirm my partner in her course? So, that gets logged on Tuesday and Wednesday. And, like those little pieces of like co-steering that ship, they just become more and more and more important. And I'll tell you one, you have, a son that's that's the same age?
Georgia is 18 and taller than both of us. And Wolfgang is, I don't know, he's about 3 feet high at the moment.
Yeah. So that's, the huge gap. You've seen the cycle, right? Now you've seen it come full circle. Yeah. I think that's now it's a help, because now I feel like the statement, that the days are long and the years are short. That is so true. It is so, so true. The days are long and the years are short. Some days and some nights feel like, okay, this child is never going to sleep. I'm never going to sleep. I have no idea how I'm supposed to talk to someone on a conference call, record a song. But at the same time, the hey dad, let's go watch a movie. Hey dad, will you make this, let's eat ice cream. Hey dad, will you throw this ball for me? Or, will you play? Like the love that you get back as a parent, right? It fills this whole other area of your existence that, somehow gives you a little extra fight. And it doesn't mean that you're not in pain. It's sort of like reminding yourself that you're going to survive the trials of management in order to get through, that's it. It's like, I don't know. There's no secret.
What are some like you've got a lot of kids, but you're also one of a lot of kids. There's more than 2 other brothers in the Hanson family.
I'm number 2 of 7. Yeah.
That's right. So what things did you see your parents do that you at the time you were like, I don't understand why they do that. And now you're like, oh.
Like, what is my problem? Why did I not get this? I have no excuse at all. What is wrong with me that I replicated this? What I saw them, the things I will say about my folks that I really did see, and then I think I silently meant more to me than I realized, is they didn't, growing up in a big family, you do have this broader sense of working with others. When you grow up in a large group where you know that you are a type of person, you're not the universe. Like this person's this way, this person this way. And you spend your whole upbringing kind of negotiating that. And we weren't really told you need to be this way. We definitely were. We were given room, I think, to be who we are. And there was definitely a focus on kind of the deeper things versus the topical things. And of course, our history, right? First time we came to the lovely country of Australia was 25 years ago. And I was 14 years old. So a lifetime ago, we were in a very strange environment. Most 14-year-olds aren't traveling the world and aren't, playing music and all that stuff. So all these other things interrupt all of the typical questions around, coming up and being coming of age. But I think my folks definitely set an environment in the parental role of, the deeper stuff matters more than the sort of topical, popular stuff, or go make money, and then that's spiritual too. I mean, we grew up, with strong faith, and it, without getting into that discussion with the world, what that really means from a practical point of view is if you believe in something higher than yourself, you step back and you look it through a lens that is not simply survival, right? You believe in sense of purpose. So I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think it's huge. And for those that have different faiths, I think the strength of having a belief in something that is greater than yourself is really so important. I cannot imagine struggling through creating a business, raising a family, surviving a relationship, loving friends when you just want to reach across the table and sock them in the face, people you've known your whole life, it's like, what's your problem? And you stop yourself because you're like, man, I'm probably going to regret that. And so having those reference points where you believe that you're it's not just a big accident that just exploded. At least that's for me. That's not for everybody. That helps.
I understand exactly what you're saying. It's actually interesting we're speaking today. I'm, as of yesterday, actually, American time, where you are, I'm 12 years sober today in America. So technically today is my 12th birthday because it was the 14th of March, 2010 that I woke up in New York.
Is that right?
Yeah, I woke up in New York and went, I can't ever do that again. And that was 12 years ago. And a big part of me staying sober, and as you mentioned, it's not for everyone. I'm in a fellowship of people who help each other stay sober. They count days and take steps. There's more than 11 steps. There's less.
They look out for each
There's less
other.
than 13 steps. There's more than 11. You can figure it out. Anyway, part of that is you just have to accept that there's something bigger than you. For some people, that is a god or a godlike thing. For some people like me, I struggled with that. And my guy just said to me, mate, just pick something bigger than you. It's just got to be something bigger than you, because
of course,
otherwise you turn into a selfish prick who thinks everything's about you. So just what's bigger than you, and what can you be humble before? And I've told this story before, but I heard this amazing tale one day. A bloke, he was a farmer. He's probably from your part of the world. Had some poor experiences in the past with a preacher dad. He's like, can't do that. And the guy said, I don't care. So he was humble before his tractor, because without his tractor, he couldn't look after his family. He couldn't tend to his fields. He couldn't, if he didn't take care of it and be humble before it and not think he was bigger than it, or, want to run it down with a plow before it warmed up and break it. He couldn't harvest. So he chose his tractor, and just whatever works. And and I have to be reminded of it daily. I'm not going to lie, because that selfish person still exists within me. I feel it's super important to be constantly reminded. It's not about me. And as a human being, I am wired to help others. If I am in service to other people, my life is better. And I can see what you're saying. You talked about your folks before in that first trip out to Australia.
Yeah.
And, for folks for people who may not be aware, we're talking about 20,000 people in a time before the internet, in a time before social media, in a time before text messaging.
Yes.
20,000 people found their way to on buses, trains, walking, minivans, however. And you're
sitting at a record store. Yeah.
It was a record store.
Madness.
It was an in-store. It was mammoth. That's the story of the kid or the child or the underage musician who is just under this, just being waterboarded with adulation, being waterboarded with adulation, being waterboarded with nothing you do is wrong. Everything you do is awesome. Let's keep the money train going. The story of that is so well played out. And there are 150 different ways that ends, but there's one really common way at around the age of 22. If there's 150 of those kids, 149 are pretty much at the same spot at the age of 22, and we all know what it is. That you three didn't. There should be a Grammy for your parents. Like that they were able to guide you through that is incredible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Huge credit to my parents. Huge credit. And more credit now to them than I even think I realized then. And we were pretty self-aware to be appreciative of that, but it's so much even clearer how hard that would have been for them to be alongside the success and trying to figure out, well, what do you do? How do you not over control and respect that we had wanted this and done it, and we were young, but it was us. It was who we were. It wasn't some stage parent thing, but just to be there as counsel and kind of walk it along and give good input, and try to not add to the already very challenging situation. The one thing, so I would say is you can't change who you are. I mean, you show up a certain way, and I think you're talking about is finding something higher, finding a calling, finding something to serve. I always have felt, I feel that today, the three of us are not exactly the same in what calls us, what drives us. But since I was really, really young, I've just seen see this almost like a picture, like this is where I want to go. And you're just walking towards that until all of a sudden you find yourself, oh my God, I'm standing in that thing. That happened. I got there. And so most people don't ever get the blessing of suddenly finding themselves in that picture they painted in their mind and it actually happening. It's so uncommon, more uncommon than I wish it was, honestly. I think I'd love to see more people realize their dreams, truly live in this happened. And so, in other things I've done and we've done together and I've done separately, I'm trying to describe what that does to a person in a positive sense. I told somebody that I was trying to share a new project with. So a nonprofit that I've been really passionate about. We started in 2014. And anyway, that's focused on food and hunger-related issues. And I was visiting with somebody. I said, look, you have to understand, I'm a really dangerous person to be around. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Ooh. They said, because I am one of those people that had a big idea or believed in something and was, was crazy enough, got supported. We tried things, failed, and then it worked. And so when you're ever around somebody that has seen sort of not just like yes, we're lucky, we're blessed, you don't control having some big hit, blah, 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 of course. But when you do achieve something that you really imagined and hoped for, and then you see it play out and it actually happens, then you are a danger to mediocrity. You're a danger to the status quo because everybody else goes, well, it's probably never going to happen. I'm like, well, heck yeah, it can. The challenge is, how do you survive success? How do you survive getting, it's like the dog chases the car until he bites the bumper. He's like, well, what happened? What do I do now? Well, you need a lot of cars to chase, So I think I loved what Quincy Jones, the great documentary about Quincy Jones came out a couple of years ago that people have, I'm sure, seen. Such a genius, one of the great minds of the last century. He said, someone asked him, how does he stay humble, right? He's doing extraordinary things over and over and over, from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson. He said, well, if you always have if you always have such ostentatious goals and possibilities in your mind, then you never feel that you have, I'm paraphrasing, that you have a reason to have an ego, because you're never satisfied. You're always imagining what's next. So I'm always hungry for what's next. I think that focus, that kind of almost frustration with wherever now is, which in the wrong way could be toxic, but the sort of drive or interest or curiosity about what's next, that's been, to me, the survival. That's what's made survival possible. Because aside from also having anything we discussed before, that higher vision or sense of purpose, but that, like, oh my God, but what if that, what if this, what if that, like that, and not being like, well, I really got it figured out, I'm pretty great, you know.
Well, there's clearly you mentioned before, systems of survival that you put in place between you and your wife to maintain a relationship and a functioning thing that can model for your own kids, which is really, really, really important. What are the systems that, like, how do you just like not whittle the day away looking after 7 kids and, making sure you get your cup of coffee? Do you be like, are you, okay, no, I absolutely have to, I've got a limited amount of time. I've got to action this, push this thing forward, nudge that thing forward, like moving pieces on a chessboard bit by bit by bit by bit. Is it a deliberate thing, or is it just a part of how you operate?
Well, I do have, huge amount of trust and a huge amount of support from my wife. We got that. There's just zero way I could be who I am if she was not really in my corner and dedicated to being the glue with the family and the kids. And the interesting thing about both of us, neither one of us thought we would be parents of a bunch of kids. She has always been working in many respects, but has never been the breadwinner. So that dynamic is the only reason I could have 7 kids and be as focused as I am on the amount of things I do, because of the time, the commitment. Running a house of 7 children is like 4 jobs. It's not a full-time job. It's the hours don't exist to measure that. And so you're crafting the future. You literally you're making people. Like a person is not made the day they're born, right? They are ever being made. And so we both really believe in that. And so one of the things that we, in our dynamic between work and play, is I've always, because I was married so young. I was the first one to get married, and my brothers and sisters, first one to have kids, even though I'm number 2, Isaac, who you of course know, Isaac and Zach as well. They both were pretty close behind me, but I was the first one to do that. And we were young and we were moving. And so we didn't now time to settle down, get the picket fence kind of. We were very much like strap on that baby Bjorn and let's get on the tour bus. Yeah. So shared experience is huge. There's been a huge support in allowing for the kind of consumption that it takes to be an artist, let alone just an entrepreneur and a creative voice. And in the entertainment industry, which you know very, very well, you've got to be able to. It's a whole nother relationship. It's like a first marriage. Like I was married before I married my wife. To the work, to the creative.
When you speak about being an entrepreneur, like that is now by default what you are as a musician. There was a time when you could hand all that stuff over to a record company and management team, and then just write the hits and go on tour. You'd write, record, tour, see you again in 18 months, everybody. And everything else, all the marketing, everything would take care of itself. Now, as an artist, if you're not posting 3 times a day on your Snapchat or Instagram, your fans are like, where are you? You should be pinging my inbox right now. I demand that you interact with me. And you're like, the way the money pipelines have changed, you're like, I'd better, because this is how I get paid now. However, when you all went independent, 2003, I think it was.
Yes, that's right.
When you went independent in 2003, you were really one of the first bands who you had this colossal fan base, this dedicated fan base. I dare say an enviable fan base and probably one of the most dedicated fan bases to any band in the world right now. And you went, all right, we're going to all go on this together. And you each of you wrapped your hands around each other, and you kind of created this new model of how the two of you treat each other.
The fan
the audience.
and the artist, yeah.
Yeah. But no one had really done that before. There were fan clubs. You'd write a letter. You might go to a conference, maybe. There might be a fan-only, like a flexi kind of vinyl thing you get in a magazine, like, woo, that might happen. But no one had really, you were really putting the track down in front of the train here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's so interesting. So many of the decisions about any career are what choices you make based on the things you don't control, right? You don't get to make any decisions in a bubble. I mean, meaning everything has factors out of your control, right? You don't just get to sit there and say, well, here's this perfect box and this is the next thing I'm going to do. So we had to choose a certain path. And, basically after our first record, we, the story a little bit, but for folks that don't know it at all, I mean, you have this breakout success, signed to a label that had real history, Mercury. And so a team of people that got the idea of what the band really was. And after our first record, after that, before the second album, before 99, when we were making the next album, first one came out in 97, we had a whole new label. It was not anybody that was the same label. So it was as if we had been dropped, which we weren't. We were just consumed and the entire label just got gutted. So we were then on our second album, which was songs like This Time Around and If Only, and anyway, Save Me was another single from that record. It was a hip hop label. So that record, we kind of survived, but it was very successful, but it was not successful at the level the first one had been. Mostly because 6 weeks after its release, the label was like, okay, next. So by the time we got to the third record, we were still this huge asset, like global fan base and great records. And, we had this connection, but the label just didn't really know what to do. And they just would throw money at it without really understanding what to do with it. But we had something most people don't realize, and that was the choice. The choice that we made to start a label and go independent was informed by information that we were paying attention to that nobody cared about, which was the internet. We had to look through a lens that all the record industry in their hubris was just consumed with the power they had. We have press, we have retail stores, we have radio globally, everywhere, not just the States, like Australia, Latin America. I mean, Latin America was developing at the time more, but Europe, everybody thought the labels thought they had all the power. Well, we're like, what, this internet, they could not care at all about our website. And so we began to see that we already had fans that were hungry, and they're just rotting on the vine. They're just willing. They're there, but we're not fueling them. Whereas the label just goes, well, you're not as pure. You're just whatever your next single is. And we're like, no. We already have this base. Let's build on that. Let's think about the next 10 years. Let's think about the next 3 albums. Let's think about how to be Bruce Springsteen, how to be U2, how to be the bands that we grew up loving. This isn't just about the next song. Like let's build a career. So we had a choice, I like to say we had a view from the top. Like we had a view from the top. We could see the whole thing enough to say like, wow, it's not getting better than this, and this sucks. So we could actually make the move. I'm like at the Four Seasons and the service is terrible. So I don't have to wonder if I hang on, will it get better? And so, but still we had to rebuild everything. In 2000, remember I was about, I guess I was 20. So we started, we had a new started on label, built a distribution deal. Anyway, all this stuff, management, attorneys, agents, everything. But again, it's, that choice was not, there were a lot of other options that we could have made, which is just to stay around in the meat grinder and hide from the possibilities of the front end risk that you take when you leave and you start your own thing. But we're here, I think, at year 30 with more tickets sold around the world than we did 20 years ago. I think because of the sort of reckless abandon of taking the chance.
Yeah, there's no, and this is, I think, besides the incredible ability that the three of you have to write a song that will stick in my head when I am trying to do other things.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's what it's supposed to do. That's the job of what you are doing, is to create melodies that I can't forget. And that's perfect. Not everybody can do it. Besides that, the admiration that, as someone who's seen the music industry change from and been a part of, being millions of years ago, being an independent act, and putting money together, pressing tapes. We had tape runs and we had a CD run, understanding the money that it takes to, this is how many units we're making. How many can we afford to give away to press? Oh, okay, we'll give away that many. It's just going to end up in the bin. Do we really have that much?
Yeah.
I understand that, and seeing the colossal amounts of money that, it used to be like one Mariah Carey Christmas album pays for the 10 weird bands you find on the fringe labels, and maybe one of them will hit.
Yeah.
And, but Mariah's records were paying for everything. That's the money they make off that. Anyway, that you managed to create a new business model in a time when distribution and unit sales and everything was absolutely plummeting, and music was no longer a commodity. It just became like it was a utility, like water. You would push a button and there it was for free. How do you then sustain yourself as an artist?
Well, that question's happening right now. I mean, It never stops. There is no permanent state. I mean, that's a life statement, really. But particularly for our industry is perpetually changing. So yeah, I mean, we've certainly been lucky, and we have made some hard decisions, and they have not been, they haven't necessarily been the shiniest or, put the most dollars in our pocket on, at each step, but they have been informed by that sort of sense of values that, you have, that allow you to withstand difficult times. And I think that's one thing that's very important to talk about when relationships, businesses, artists, one of the things that we do through who we are as well. But I know I'll just speak for me and not speak for everyone, but I can just at least know this is true for me. And I think we as a unit have embodied this. You need to be able to suffer through challenges if you expect to exceed the average expectation. If you cannot suffer some failures, if you can't suffer a lot of a lot of holes are in there's a bunch of holes in the bottom of this boat, you do not get forged. You do not become, if you wither when those things come, you're probably not meant to achieve certain things, because frankly, there's a lot of paths where you end up kind of, and respect to people of all paths, you don't necessarily want to own your own business. You don't necessarily want to be the artist. If you are kind of entrepreneurial and an artist, you are permanently at the front with a sword pointed outward. You don't get to pass the baton. You don't get to pass the buck. You're forever. How do I negotiate what's next? How do I continue to be creative and respond to what's possible around the corner? And if you're programmed to like doing that already, then hey, there you go. That's for me. That's who I am. I love the process of solving problems, but it is also fatiguing. It's incredibly fatiguing. And if you don't have people with you that understand, you're going to choose, I believe in this, over easy win. If it's something you don't believe in, then the people around you will start to crawl away. Like, oh yeah, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to ride on that train. So we've been through that, back and forth between the three of us. There's times where everybody doesn't feel the same way about something. Everybody doesn't share that same level of, I want to suffer for that thing. But that I believe that the creators, and I'm not just talking about artists, you look at Albert Einstein, you look at Frank Lloyd Wright, you look at, freaking Steve Jobs, you look at, that crystallized and they whittled it down until it was just so right. They had to have an ability to suffer for that belief. And so you have to have a really strong sense of compass. And frankly, you've got to know what your win looks like. It does not necessarily look like money in the bank. It should look like a certain amount, hopefully, so you can be a good steward and have a family and, take care of yourself. But it probably, I would argue, I would put money on the people that have made the most meaningful changes. They're not doing it for money. They're doing it because they believe in something that ends up probably in a lot of cases leading to success and, certain fame levels and financial success. But, they're driven by something else, and it's a better world, or it's a better idea. But that means you got to like to fight, So anyway, that's the Taylor perspective that wears a lot of people out. But I think that's what a lot of what has informed certain decisions and allowed us to fight for things.
I think you've crystallized what I've heard on this show many a time, though, Taylor. And the true fact is, and as someone who pursues physical exertion as a daily practice, which you do when you row, the only way your body gets stronger is to be willing to hang out where it's hard. You've got to be willing to, I'm just going to do this one extra minute where I am really out of breath, and then I will rest. And when I recuperate, my body will go, well, that sucked. How do we get ready for that? If that happens, okay, more of these cells, more of that cells, VO2, up you go, more muscles, please. And then next time you do it, a little bit easier. Yeah. And you're like, actually, I want to get a little faster now, or I want to get better, or I want to get stronger.
Yeah, and it gives you starts.
And it's not the whole time. You don't need to be willing to, you're not Sisyphus pushing a rock. You're not suffering the entire time. You're just it's literally just can you be willing to do it for 4%? The science is around 4%. Can you be willing to push yourself to discomfort for around 4% above where you've been before? And that's where you can adapt. That's where you can learn. And that's the secret sauce that you've kind of just described. If for people, you mentioned something really lovely, and I really dug it. I'm staying at the Four Seasons, but the service is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of what, what are my options? An Airbnb, but I don't know how it's going to be.
Right.
Is there going to be crap on the floor? Is there going to be something old in the fridge?
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be running an independent record label. Not everyone's a parent of 7 kids, but everyone at something in their life has this thing of it's a scratchy sweater and it makes my skin hurt, but I'm warm. Yeah. I'm afraid if I take it off, I won't find something else to keep me warm.
Right.
What would you say to people who are facing this kind of, it's uncomfortable and I don't like it, but I'm afraid of taking it, looking for something else because I'm afraid that something else might not be there?
Frankly, it's a really good question because it's a very hard one to answer when you're genuinely in that place of fear. And I think what I would go back to, when you're standing there in that position of what I feel is kind of terrible in all these ways, but it's what I know, which is a lot of what you're talking about, which the devil is people live there and end up there, and I understand completely. I mean, I've been a band with brothers for 30 years, so I know about that. But it's, ask yourself the simple question: how many things that have made a difference in my life, how many things that I value came because of fear? I would ask you to just think about it for a second. And if you're in that, you're like you said, good. The sweater's warm, but man, is it uncomfortable and terrible. And there's got to be a better option. Cashmere's got to be out there somewhere, maybe 100% cotton. But ask yourself how many of the things that you value came out of responding to fear, letting fear win. Proposing to a partner, pretty sure you're probably scared, really petrified to make that move if you've made that move. Taking a new job, going to applying for a new job, at the school you chose to go to, the buddy that's your friend that you maybe met at the playground at the school when you were in first grade, or maybe when your buddy that you met in college, or whatever that leap was. Most of the things that I would guess, most of the things that people value before those things occurred, they probably started from deciding to be brave. I know that's true of me. I mean, I can't, there's very, very few things that I think, and it doesn't mean it means good things all require suffering. I really think it's important to say I'm kind of a masochist, but I'm not saying that that's the point. It shouldn't have to be painful. It can be just courage can just be putting on a color shirt that you know is out of season today. You know, I mean, that can be courageous. And that can lead to another friend, you know, a new friend that reaches out and says, hey man, canary yellow, damn. You know, I love that. So that's what I'd say.
Susan David, who's an absolutely brilliant psychologist. She's been on the show twice. She has two amazing lines, which I just keep coming back to. Uncomfortable feelings are the price of admission to a meaningful life. And
beautiful.
Courage is fear walking forward.
Mm.
And if I remember those two things, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you couldn't have phrased it any better. You said it's a difficult question to answer, mate, but you nailed it. What things in your life that you value do you have because they were a response to fear? Yes, I was afraid to propose to Audrey.
Almost none.
I was afraid to propose to Audrey. I was afraid to start a relationship with a woman who already had a kid, but that wasn't as big as but I really want to do it, so I'm going to do it. And life's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not without its challenges. Like anyone who's married is not without its challenges. That's, you know, the fallacy is that marriage is amazing. Like, I will, and ta-da, confetti, boom. Next 40 years is amazing. Actually, it's like
are these your socks?
Pardon?
Are these your socks? It's lines like, are these your socks? Like,
are these your socks? Where's the? Have you seen the bin liners, Taylor?
Did you?
No, the trash can liners, the black ones, not the white ones.
Because I'm pretty sure they go over there.
Mate, I've asked you to put the Taylor, mate. So you know how I asked you last week to put this thing here, and now it's over there. It's been going there, and I asked you to put it here. Is there a reason why it's there? Because have you just forgotten, Taylor?
Yeah, exactly. So you were referencing rowing. I had forgotten that you shared that, and
yeah, I loved it, mate. I haven't had a chance for a long time, but I loved being on the water. Loved it.
Well, Oklahoma is. I mean, we actually have a couple of rivers that are we row in a lot, but they're controlled, and so a lot of times they're dammed. So a lot of times there's not water. So you do a lot of erging. You know, it's the stationary for people that don't know the stationary.
You're on the concept machine too, just fanging it out.
Yeah, actually, I have a water rower. The one with the water tank. Yeah,
get the better feel. Yeah,
it gives back, but it's the same. But I think that was a meaningful step for me. In the last decade of my life, because spent a lot of time, striving and creatively striving, but the physical was, and I don't, kind of on an upswing now to try and really drive it back, but and build into racing again. But about 10 years ago, it hit me that I really had stopped having any constructive physical growth beyond being a performer, and sport. I loved sport growing up. I loved soccer, I loved rock climbing. But this other thing just took all the time and all the space. And I said, I need something I can just go and I can just learn, and I can not be in charge. I can have a coach. I want somebody to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, and to just, but just the power of like that, you're talking about that physical challenge, like where's your wall? Where's your 100%? And knowing what that 100% feels like to get to it is, you don't get stronger if you don't get to the edge of where you think you can reach. So I think that is such an important thing. It's not about being some macho, gym rat. It's just figuring out ways to get out there in the front of the mirror and face yourself. Face what it looks like to try really hard, and then be like, oh, well, that hurt a little, but here I am, and that's weird. Kind of have like a bunch of endorphins going, and tomorrow was a little bit. I can do a little more. So it's super important. You got to do it.
Physical exertion is I'm nearly 50, mate, and if I don't get that physical exertion in, I notice that the rest of my work suffers. Did you notice a change in your creativity, in your ability to hold focus?
Absolutely. again, I usually don't talk about that because it always annoys me when people post like, here I am doing this. And I just think I want people to find what works for them, but just more from almost a spiritual commentary about growth. The physical, pushing yourself physically, I mean, it's chemical. Like your body gives you all kinds of, thank you for doing that. The positive, sense of feeling. One of the things in the rowing community, there's a lot of really interesting people that choose rowing because it's not one of those things you just stumble across. So you got to pursue it. Yeah. Is this sort of, I've done more before 7 than you did all day, and kind of this funny, like I already, rowed, 5 football fields, or US football fields. And you all of a sudden, the whole rest of your day, you just go, okay, whatever I don't do today, I already did that. I know people that run, I know people that do whatever their sport is. I always had a hard time working out because it just bored me to tears, so I need like an activity that's like, I can't think about anything else. So we just put out this new song today, or just a couple of days ago, that was the second single, which is featuring Isaac. But the first single, this new project, is sort of 3 sections that each of us have led. The first one was led by a group of songs that I composed, and the song's called Child at Heart. And the song Child at Heart, this hook of the song is all about retaining the feeling of being a child, having that childlike heart. And being a child at heart does not mean like eating Play-Doh, or, Crayolas, it's the sense of hopefulness, remaining in awe, right? Keeping awe.
At very end. So, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's what I was going to say. It just kind of coming full circle, these messages. It's that thing of, if you believe that you can get stronger, if you believe you can overcome things, if you believe in the possibility of that unlikely, the girl across the room is going to actually say yes, then you live that, you live up to your expectations, or you live down to them, right? So I know that somebody's like, well, yeah, Taylor Hanson, you've done blah, blah, blah. And it's easy to be cynical from someone else saying stuff. So I just speak from me. I know that I will live down or up to what I expect is possible, right?
You mentioned the new record, which I did get a chance to listen to. And as you mentioned, this is new for you as a band who have tradition, up until, this record being, these are the 3 of us making songs together, and these are, every song is, a collaboration between the 3 of us. And this new album is divided into 3. Yeah. It is songs, as you mentioned, led by yourself, songs led by Zach, and songs led by Isaac. Sometimes if you're Jackson Pollock and you're painting on a canvas as big as a tennis court, yes, of course you're going to get the broomstick, dunk it in the house paint bucket and fling it, right? But if I say to you, okay, here's a canvas and it's this big, all right? In the past, it's been, you've got 16 songs to find that thing that you want. But this time around, it's like, you got 6 goes, and then it's your brothers.
Yeah.
Once you restrict yourself, right, do you find it pushes you?
Well, I think there's a story behind where the structure of this project, and I think it does push you in different ways. Yes. I think it does push you. I think it pushes you to make certain decisions, so that we have always written, and obviously anybody that understands music knows, even if you saw Isaac Taylor and Zach's name next to every song, every song is not equally written or equally, right? People play different roles, but we've always just, you see a Hanson song, it says the 3 of our names. Like, that's just the way we do it. On this project, we're saying, well, these are the 5 songs Isaac wrote, and 5 songs Zach wrote, and 5 songs Taylor wrote, and they're kind of leading the production and the approach, but we're still doing it, collectively. In this case, it forced, you have less songs to choose what statement you want to make, and I think that's the biggest difference. The writing side of it, the stories you want to tell, the amount of impact you can make. And I think it was, giving up a certain amount of control which I found miserable, but it was what made this project different in the sense that you can't curate everything. One person can't curate everything. So I think people will definitely, you hear the different creative voices. And one of the things that's true about the project too is that we do have a lot of continuity because we brought in two partners that produced and engineered with it. So it has glue that was kind of there to preserve a certain amount of continuity. But yeah, it changes your perspective. Just absolutely the size of the canvas changes what you paint.
The idea of a band doing their own kind of solo work within the context of a band is not new. It can go really well. It can go really terribly. Outcasts, Love Below, and Speakerbox is,
Yeah. Basically, yeah, exactly. It was basically two solo projects, or was two solo projects.
Hey Ya is, you may not know, but Hey Ya is a song on a double album. There's a whole other record that Big Boy made.
No. Oh, I know.
But
yeah.
Matt, and that was it. That was it. By one of the most incredible hip hop bands ever. How did they come back from that? They didn't really, so it cannot end well.
Yeah, and what they did, and I think they were on different paths at that point. And that was part of the thing. One thing that I wanted to go into this project, fans will begin to hear different things from this project than they've ever heard, and there will also be things they don't hear that they expect to hear. And just talk about that for a second. For me, I chose to do something that was hard to do, but was like, okay, this will make this the most different as far as this project, which is choosing to be simpler. I love production. I love harmonies. I love layers. Child at Heart, the first song we put out, was still pretty layered and pretty dense. But when people check out this whole record, the front end of it, the red portion, the first 5 songs, there's a couple tunes that are just, almost nothing. And so that will open up people's, I think, view of just the different voices, technical voices, literally, and creative voices. But I think just stepping back from this project and the overall scope of things, I just have so much gratitude for the audience that has joined us, and has stayed connected. And we've very much tried to give back to and sort of thank the audience via respect for them and creating great events and continuing to do good work and create experiences that are unique with our fan community. But you can never fully thank some, millions of people, frankly, and for sticking it out with you and for sharing kind of your journey with you and trusting you. And it's it's one of those things, all you can do to sort of try and express that appreciation is to try and continue to do good work and to try and give people something else that they can put into their journey in life. And I just feel an extraordinary sense of gratitude that we get to do what we do. And, so the process of this project was painful for me because not necessarily, it's not simply about the brothers, different voices, different tastes, but more the fact that knowing what it is going to be that's going to reach whoever, when this project's done, being like, I know this X, Y, and Z is going to be in whatever reaches that fan. But I think that's also part of what makes it really different. And certain things about it are really magical. And so it'll be interesting and cool to see how fans kind of take that.
For bands to get, it's easy to make we've all heard it. It's easy to make a first album. It's hard to make a second album. Anything after that, to try and maintain your fan base, to try and if not grow your fan base, to try and keep giving the people what they want at the same time changing with them is an incredibly, incredibly difficult challenge. Like, unfortunately Malcolm Young's died now, but I could play you track 7 from the second to last AC/DC record and track 7 from the fifth to last AC/DC record and ask you, hey man, which one came first? And you'd be like, man?
Right.
Because
they had a very defined sound. They have an extremely defined sound, yeah.
They were pumping it out. For you, where is this is who I am, this is who we are, this is what our fans expect, and yet I don't want to be bored when I go to work. So how can I just get a little salt on the rice? Where's too far? Am I going to get a theremin on this track? Like, where's too far for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the voice, I think what the continuity that I think will always be there. In the experience people have listening to Hanson record, and I know, as far as my piece of that, the part that I physically can control, what's Taylor going to bring to the room, versus what we're curating as a unit. I think as long as this kernel, I'll tell you what I think the kernel really is, but as long as that kernel is strong, I think that the audience runs with it. It's like theremins and strings and, colors and production styles. You listen to a Beatles record, obviously their most great example, right? Biggest band of all time, so much different diversity. We understand that that's because we had 4 writers and we had 4 voices and we had lots of change and a lot of time in the studio. But even between like artists like Tom Petty or artists like Billy Joel or an artist like Coldplay or bands that have now had more than a one shot, there's a core that is the DNA of what is their voice. And then there's production. And then there's collaboration, and there's certain style. I mean, there's a Coldplay track with BTS, right? Which we'll talk about whether that was a good idea or not. But that says something like, okay, well, it still sounds like Coldplay. I'm not worried that people will still get what they kind of quote unquote expect, as long as the writing is not lazy, which is the craft, right? The melody, and that the performance is about connection. Music is connection, really. Music is, for me, it's that I'm not alone. I'm not, it reaches out. You hear a Frank Sinatra track and you're like, I don't know, man. Hey, this is just, I feel something about that moment in time. And, or you hear just a great song, you hear a great singer, you hear, music makes you feel not like you've been brought across just to connect with somebody else. So style can evolve and production can evolve, but that has to be at the center.
It's different to be older as a pop artist these days, which I'm grateful for, because it means I get to keep hearing your records. There was a pressure at the time going, are you sure you still want to be writing 3-minute songs, mate? You're 28 now. Time to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think longevity in anything, is a fight. And so 2 thoughts on that. One, I think part of the key is to realize that you're not trying to, it's not one lifetime. You're just trying to extend. You've got all these laps you're taking. So, you at 25 and, 28 and 35 and 40, yeah, you're the same human and it's a part of this long run, but you should be telling continually new stories in slightly different ways and slightly evolving it. So you're not vying for the same role at that point. I had somebody that told me, well, if you don't do X by 25, then, you shouldn't, it's never going to happen. And it bothered me so much, but I understood his particular perspective, and that's wasn't necessarily untrue. It just meant that thing wasn't going to happen if it didn't happen by 25, but this and this and this and this happened. So I think, yeah, I mean, any pop music is, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? It's a lot of, sort of current feeling. I feel this right now. But if you look at the stuff that's lasted at the core of that, it's like, is it good? Did it happen? Did it mean something? And that lasts forever. So you just keep hustling.
I got to say, man, like listening to you speak today, and I know we've had plenty of conversations over the years, which I'm extraordinarily grateful for. I do not take for granted the proximity that I've been able to have to the 3 of you over the course of your career. And I am very, very grateful to have a witness to the growth that you have clearly described. But hearing... You've spoken today so generously, Taylor, about, I guess, the wisdom that drives you and the core kind of compass points in your heart. And when you speak, so many lyrics of your songs are starting to make, like just even the last hour. And I've been listening to your records. I've been listening to your albums for 25 years, man. And I'm like, crazy. Right, there it is. And I'm just really grateful that you are able to access that and then put it into, again, a melody that when I'm out the backyard with a pair of tongs picking up dog poo, I'm humming. Like, because
let me just circle back and say, one, it has also been great to have known you, initially as somebody that was an industry vet and doing it and like there with us, and then to have shared a friendship and stayed connected with you during a lot of change in the last 15 years, longer than that. But I think so. Appreciate it goes both ways.
Thanks,
and
man.
We appreciate the feeling that if you're putting yourself out there, one of the things I do feel like now is happening, and is the feeling the desire to try and usher in others, want to be there for artists and creators that are earlier in the cycle. I really am wanting to do that more and more, and realizing how much fulfilling that is to try and do that. And I think one of the things that I can speak to that is thinking about this conversation is it's great. You need to be fostering future voices that are out, listening and spreading the word and communicating and talking about great work and keeping these dialogues going, because artists that are choosing to reach out and put themselves out there are starving to have those dialogues, because so much of our industry is so full of the Kardashians, it's so full of just, why is that person famous? And those that are taking that chance to try and write something or care about something, or, put something really, something that, at least, even if it's not great by anybody's measure by their own, but they believe in it and then fight for it. Like, that's what I think we need that in the world. We need creators that are taking, just saying, hey, you may not even like this, but I got to say it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to believe in it. I'm going to struggle for it. And I'm not going to, I'm going to do it because I know that's who I am. Right. And anytime you take a risk of being an artist, you decide to do that. You got to be, hey, get ready to fail. Here we go.
Yeah, I was having this chat yesterday. I was shooting a thing with some friends. We've got an election coming up, and climate resilience and such. It's a very, very important thing to my heart, as I feel it should be for everybody, because we only have one atmosphere. And we were talking about delivering this line to camera, and I just basically said, look, it was like there's a line right, and I just said, look, for me, it's commitment over content every time. If I say it like I absolutely believe it, and I mess up a preposition or I mess up a word, no one cares, because they can see in my eyes that I'm speaking from my heart. And the commitment and the commitment to authenticity. And I had to appreciate this. I'm someone who has an uncommon connection with music. I have had that since I was Wolf's age, all right? I've been told by my folks.
Yeah.
That's not everybody. Some people go through their whole life perfectly content to hit go on their For You playlist on whatever streaming service they have, and that's their music. Or they turn on the radio and that's their music. And that's fine. However, I am a person who likes to dig deeper on that and go like, hang on, what other records did Marcus Miller play bass on? I've got to find them, and dig.
Yeah, but that's great.
And that's just me. But for me, it's always been our artists to have, and in a way, Taylor, it's also why certain podcasts, I think, in a world where there's literally a million podcasts, it's the people who are like, no, I am communicating with the purest authenticity I can possibly muster. That's who I want to listen to. Right. Because they might be only speaking about something that a tiny little niche of people are into, but I'm all over it. I'm all over it. And I think that's what, for me, is what I get from your live shows. You're this fucking maverick who, I'll never forget it, at the Metro Theatre, 3,000 people in Melbourne, and the crowd's going bananas. You just pull out this gigantic Sharpie and just graffiti all over the side of this $25,000 piano. And oh God, you remember that? It was so fucking cool. It was like the most badass thing. Like, that's a rented piano. You paid a deposit on that, man. Come on, you're an independent artist. Basically, what Taylor did is he wrote the website down. He wrote the website of where to connect on the side of this rented piano, which is a conversation your manager would have probably had to have with Billy Hides later on. But this kind of maverick idea of like, no, this is who we are, and unashamedly and unapologetically, this is who we're going to be. And I've talked about it quite a bit, and I tell this story all the time. There's a reason that I followed your band around when you tour, because I don't get those feelings in my body, nor that feeling of connection between me and everyone else in the room and people on stage at any other gig. To know that you're touring again makes me very excited. I look at your tour dates and I look back to the conversation we had about the aforementioned 7 children and the pants off porridge moments. I'm like, how do you have the conversation? Honey, I'm off. I'll be back in 5 months. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we do have a very big touring year, and we haven't yet to announce the Australian dates, but we are coming back. We're supposed to be there before the end of the year. So we're definitely returning. And so looking forward to that very much. With Natalie and I, my wife, it's I don't know. It's difficult. The amount of time when you know you're going to be away for a long time does absolutely put a strain. I think the 2 benefits. One, more and more, I have bigger children, and so I've started just taking hey, when you're 12 or 13, you are gonna just come with me. I've taken my oldest son went to Europe with us. He did Australia and New Zealand one of the years. I've taken like people on their own sort of. So that extension really makes a difference. And then in the US, a lot of times we're tour buses, and there's a much more almost a somewhat consistency. You get in your tour bus, you get in your little home away from home, and you're there for 2.5 months. Because the US, just the amount of dates you can do in the States is more than anywhere else. We'll do probably 7 to 10 dates. I think in the Australia, New Zealand, we'll do 48 in the US. There's just so much population we can reach. And so I think that you get that helps. So this summertime, like for instance, I'll have my wife and kids will be out with us the whole time.
That's awesome.
So that's not, everybody's not that way. That's a certain kind of crazy in and of itself, actually.
I'll bet, but mate, look, if I go out of the house for a meeting and I'm gone for 3 hours, I'll be in the meeting missing my kids. With my heart is like hurts because I haven't seen him in 97 minutes.
That's beautiful. That's as it should be, as long as you can manage.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad they're coming with you, because like that amount of time away from the little ones, because you'll literally, if you miss them through the day, they're like, Jesus, you got bigger in 8 hours. You're bigger and you do different things than you did this morning, and I missed it. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's very short. It is very short. That window of time when they're little is very short, and it is painful to miss it. So yeah, grateful to try and take them with me oftentimes, and you just kind of take it as a part of the badge of, if I want to do one thing and the other, there's certain things you're gonna not get as perfect.
Yeah. But, mate, I couldn't be more grateful for the time you spent today speaking with me, and I can't wait to have you back in Australia. I can't wait to come and see the show. And I certainly hope you find a seat in a very long boat with 7 other people when you're out here.
Well, when are we rowing together? When you get yourself worked back into that?
No.
No?
I'm an old man now, so I've had a hip replacement.
Oh, come on. The guys I row with are in their 70s.
Okay, yeah. Well, they've probably got some hip replacements. I'm just working through some issues with my hip replacement. As soon as I can get my knee if I can get my knee closer to my chest, because it's a bit jammed up at the moment. Once I start working on that and through the rehab, I'll get through there. And but yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so you can be the coxswain. You can just yell at everybody from the top of the boat.
80 kilos, man. I don't think I can be your cox.
No, okay.
We'll find someone small.
Okay, well, we'll hopefully we'll you can just point me in the right direction.
I'll get in the speed. I'll tell you what. I'll get in the speedboat and go, you guys doing great, okay? Put down, stroke side a little harder, Yeah, I'll do that guy. I'll be that guy. Cycling along next to the canal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you've got a motorboat. Like, what's going on? Yeah, no, it's. I actually got to row when I was in Melbourne last time in 2019. We were staying on the String Theory tour.
Yeah,
and that was so beautiful. Oh,
mate. Well, just
anyway,
like seriously, like don't even. I'm not even joking. When you know your dates, let me know, and I'll start asking for you because there's people in my life that row, and I will.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, mate, and I'll try and find someone at least Are you okay with sculls or you want sweep or?
Sculls. No, it's all skull.
You only do sculls?
That's
you don't do
what
sweep?
I do. No, never rode sweep.
Oh, you've never rode sweep? Oh.
Yeah. Sweep tends to be more collegiate. This is all masters. I mean, came up rowing outside of college. So a lot of these guys are all sculling. And so I'll be, ride solo or with a quad. I mean, I've never been beyond a 4-seat.
Quad scull, right. It is
but that's, yeah.
As you get older and have kids, it is hard to find 8 other people who all want to do the same thing at 5 o'clock on a cold winter's morning when the wind is low.
Exactly.
So I understand why sculls and maybe doubles at a stretch is easier to get in, to get another person in a boat.
I love 4-seat, man. I love quads. I mean, I think that's you can get some serious power, and people have no idea what we're talking about. I mean, just boats with more people, right? Yeah. But sculling is where you have two oars instead of just rowing with one oar on. So
just be careful of those piano fingers, mate. Don't
sweep.
you be jamming those thumbs, dude. What's it like when you show up to rehearsal with a busted knuckle?
It's happened. It's happened more than once. But I'm more worried about doing that in situations that are not rowing. I've done that with actually just moving cases or setting up or even just doing rehearsal where I've jammed. But it's never actually happened from rowing.
Well, watch those hands, mate. They feed your kids. That's very important.
Yes, they do.
You're an absolute legend. Thanks for setting up the good mic. I really appreciate that you made that extra effort. My love to you.
No worries.
I can't wait to see you guys. You're an absolute gem of a human being. Thank you for the new record. It's fabulous. And I can't wait to see you guys again. Thanks for being on the show, mate.
Absolutely my pleasure. And thanks for the great chat, and so good to see you too. And we will hopefully get to do it in person before 2022 says goodbye.